Hey guys, welcome to another Blender tutorial. My name's Stephen Lund, and in this tutorial I'll be creating or breaking a window in Blender. We'll be doing a little VFX tutorial creating this shot here where, bam, window broken. So we'll be using the rigid bodies and cell fracture add-on and combining it with some video footage to create the shot you see here. And yeah, I did this shot yesterday, and it was a lot of fun, and should be pretty informative, and I hope you enjoy. So, without further ado, let's open up a new shot and scene in Blender. So first, we will go to our motion tracking tab and open up our footage. I'm using this shot here, and first of all, let's go to user preferences and change our memory cache limit to appropriate amount. I think I'll go to 2 gigs. This will depend on how much RAM you have, but it's telling it how much the sequencer / clip editor can use. So I'll go to 2 gigs. And then just hit Alt A to cache your footage in. So I have more footage than I need in the beginning here, just in case I want to camera track it all. But we should only really need the end part here, where you can see the kid outside swinging the bat. So once this blue bar is fully loaded, that means it's all cached. You can pause the footage, and let's set our in and outs. I think I'll start around 130 here. And we can go mostly to the end there. So we now set up some of our tracking settings over here. Uncheck this and you have your tracking settings. And let's just, for this all we need to do is use a preset and blurry footage, because the shot is at a slower shutter speed and have some quicker motions. And let's start tracking from the end and going backwards, because this is the most important. So let's start with doing the corners. Holding Control and right-clicking places a marker, and then you can use the scale key, S, to scale in and out. Here, actually, why don't I quick turn my screencast keys add-on on right here, so just hang on a sec. And check that. There you go. So, yeah, we'll scale these up a little bit and place them at all 4 corners in the windows to start with, because this is going to be the most important part to get a good track on. So just go to, we'll actually be replacing this window here, so focus mainly on this window. Placing markers in all 4 corners to start. Just hitting Control, right clicking, or left clicking, and scaling. And once you get the window tracked or placed, you can move on to a few different aspects and try and get some perspective in your scene. I'll track this light bulb over here, for example, and this red spot here would be good. And you don't want to track anything on this guy, obviously, because he's moving different to the camera, so that would obviously mess up your track if you did that, so don't do that. And maybe this drumstick here, this corner, this box, and maybe a few knots on the wall here. Alright, that's pretty good for now. Maybe add another one up here real quick. That's good. Alright, so now to track these, you can just click this button here, tracking, or Shift Control T, but you want to track in the backwards direction, because we placed all of our markers at the end frame. So click track button and let it do its magic. Alright, so they finished tracking, and you can see we only have 3 markers that are still actually going. But let's see how well they did. It looks like most of them tracked pretty good. We're missing this corner of the window, and since this one is an important one, why don't we go fix it. You can see it touches the bottom of the screen here, so it cancels, but it looks like it comes back in the frame right here for a while, so we could probably move it and keep going. So select that track, move to the next frame, and just hit G, and move it to the appropriate place. You can use your little display here, and make sure it's lined up with the one previous to it. So that's pretty good. And then just click track, and that only having this track selected, you can hit track in the backwards direction, and that'll continue. And let that go all the way. Alright, that was good. Now, because we don't have enough tracks here to get a good camera solution, we will start placing some tracks in the beginning here and track them in the opposite direction. So, grabbing a few things, maybe the corners of this piece of paper here, and that one, and maybe this window over here to give it some more perspective, and scale those up a little bit. You'll probably track the top of this symbol, and maybe this outlet down there. Now, you want to try and place your tracks to objects closer to the camera and further from the camera to get a good perspective on your track. So keep that in mind when you're placing your tracks. What I did in my scene is tracked some of the aspects outside the window there to give it a good perspective, and it was a little bit challenging, but it did end up helping my solution quite a bit. So we'll do that in a moment here. Let me place just another one here. Maybe if we scale it up, we could do a larger one there. Alright. So why don't we just quick track those. If you want to turn off your disabled tracks so you don't retrack them or anything like that, just check the disabled tracks in the display there. Unselect the ones you already tracked there, holding B, box select, and then yeah, track forward this time. And let those go. Okay, so that finished, and you can see that these 4 tracks here all stop at the same time, and that's when the footage gets the blurriest. So let's see if we can't fix any of these tracks for this frame here. So alright, so if you have some tracks like this that are failing on you right away, chances are you didn't have them large enough for the amount of motion in your scene. So why don't we just quick delete these 4 tracks and replace them, scaling them up a bit larger this time, so there's more area to find it between tracks. So we'll just do that, that, and that. Okay. Now select those 4 tracks with box select and track them forward. And this time they all worked. So that's good. And now let's get a few markers outside the window here, and I think we should have enough. Just checking. You can see over here this marker goes haywire once it hits the edge of the frame. So you just want to, once you get to the point that ended good, you can go over to your tracking section and clear after, and that will take everything after that point. And then you can also see this marker here looks like it goes off a little bit. Not that one, this one. So jump to the end here, and you can see right there it loses its track. So just disable that track by clicking the eye here at that point, and then you got a good track. Alright, so now a few points outside the window, we should be good. So let's see if we can't track anything out here. You're going to have to scale your trackers up pretty large because there's going to be more movement outside the window due to perspective. But let's just see if we can't track that and maybe that darker oranger area there. So I'll select those two tracks and track. Alright, so that finished. And now let's see if we can't get a good solution out of this. So let's quick put in our camera information over here. Under camera data, choose the 550D if you're using my footage, and change the focal length to 18 because I know for a fact that's what I shot it at. And yeah, let's just you can turn on keyframe selection. This will automatically select which keyframes thinks it has the most perspective between frames, or you can do it manually by selecting the two frames here, and then refine the K1 and K2. Let's just try that, and camera motion. You see it selecting keyframes, refining, and we have a 2.9, which isn't bad for a first start. Let's save our file and save that. And let's see if we can't make this track any better by cleaning a few of the tracks up. So let's set the error to be 4, and it will select any tracks with an error larger than 4, and it will select them. So click clean tracks. Actually unselect everything and click clean tracks. You can see these few have worse error to them, so let's follow them through and see if they go bad anywhere. That one seems okay. Let's deselect that one, click clean tracks again, grab a different one, follow this through. That seems okay. And clean tracks, grab this one. Okay, this one goes haywire when the arm comes into the shot there. So I'll have to just disable the track here before. So you go up here, clear before, and now the track will be disabled when his arm comes into it. So now if we select all of our things and do camera motion again, we should get a better solution. Whoa, the opposite. Large, bad. Alright, let's set the keyframes ourselves this time. So uncheck automatic keyframe and do it manually. So I'll just try. I know that there's a lot of perspective towards the end, so I'll just try. Actually, I gotta go further. I'll go 220 to 250, and we'll see what we get with that. This is just a little bit of trial and error, but that's not too bad. 2.1. You can mess around and see if you can get any better, but chances are, oh, there we go, 2.7. So let's try 200 and 250, and that's not as good. So let's just go 220, camera motion, and whoa, okay, 220, not 210. All right, that's not too bad. So let's select our tracks and set up tracking scene. Check that button there, and then to make things a little bit easier for us, select 4 of the window tracks. Actually, this track goes haywire, and this is an important one. So let's quick fix this track. Let's just retrack this one entirely. So just delete it, place a new one, scale it up larger than before, place it in the corner there, and since we're at the end frame, track backwards. And this time it goes all the way to the beginning almost. So that's good now. So let's redo the camera motion, and 2.2 this time. Let's just go with that and do a little bit of reconstruction. So turn to the reconstruction mode here, select 4 corners or 3 corners, and set this as a wall. And then we can select these two corners and set the scale. This is, we'll just do 1 meter for now between there and there. So this distance is in meters. So click set scale. And now let's jump over to our default setup and see how it's looking. Alright, so we have our camera here and our default cube and plane scene set up for the tracking. We don't need these right now, so you can delete that and delete that. Now let's just orientate our scene. Go into the camera view and select one of the corners so you can tell where the window is in perspective. Alright. And then just rotate the camera. And I think this is where the window is here, so we can just rotate that like so. And we're going to try and line up the window with this red line here, so it is easier to work with. And then you can kind of see where we have a straight line here, so this is probably where the window is. So you just want to rotate that until you get it pretty much straight across there. And you can check this by going to different tracks and seeing what you get. That looks all pretty good. Check that track. Yeah. So now maybe just a little bit more rotating here. And checking. Alright, now that should work okay. So let's start adding objects. Let's add our window. So just place in the general area where the window should be. Go to 3D view, then go to above view and put it on the red line. Go to camera view, place in the center there. Shift A, add plane. I don't know why my shape keys, screencast keys aren't on. I turned them on. And is that working? Alright, I gotta turn it on again. Sorry. Start display. There we go. So we have our plane added. Rotate 90 degrees along the x-axis. Scale it down a little bit. And scale up a little bit. Now we'll just tab into edit mode. Or wait, first select the track in the bottom right corner. Then hit Shift S. Cursor to selected. Select the plane. Tab in edit mode. Select the corner vertex. Shift S. Selection to cursor. And we're going to repeat this process for all 4 corners. So grab that corner, Shift S, cursor to selected, grab the plane, Shift S, selection to cursor. Do the same up here, Shift S, cursor to selected, Shift S, selection to cursor. And the last one, edit mode, oh wait, Shift S, cursor to selected, Shift S, selection to cursor. Now that is pretty good right there, but we can tweak it a little bit now just to make it, if you scrub through your video, it's looking just a little bit off. So let's grab the window, drop it down there a little bit, just to line it up right where the glass should be. Let me move that vertex that way a little bit. And okay, we got our window there. Looks like this vertex is off a little bit. So maybe we just ignore that one and pull this up so it is in a flat, relatively flat plane, and then go into camera view and move the vertex into the corner. And then you can scrub through your video and see how well that stays, and that looks pretty accurate. So that'll work for that now. So we got a little bit of thickness to our window now. So here, maybe we can fix this up a little bit better here. There and there. All right, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. All right, so maybe move the glass just down a little bit there. So tab into edit mode, select a pane, and just extrude it out a little bit. Wait. Go into face select mode. Delete the first user extruded. Just make sure the plane extrudes and not the edges. So extrude that out. Is that working? Yeah, that's working. So just a little bit of thickness, something like that. Might be a little too thick. Something like that looks okay. Now go back into the camera mode and let's shadow this. So first let's duplicate. Here let's move the window to layer 1. As you can see, it was on the bottom layer here, because this was set up automatically. But let's duplicate this by hitting Shift D, right clicking to not move it at all, and move it to the layer next to it. So now this, actually, don't put it on the layer next to it. Let's put it over on this layer because we'll need that layer later. So now to shadow this, first we gotta enable our cell fracture add-on. So go to add-ons and search for cell, and then check the cell fracture add-on. And you can see we have this box here that pops up. So before we check that though, we're gonna have to do a little bit of drawing, because we're going to set where we want to shadow using the grease pencil. So make a new layer on the grease pencil and check surface, and that should do it. So holding D, you can draw with the grease pencil. So you hold D down and you can see you can draw, and we're drawing right onto our window there. So right now we're basically putting where the ball is going to come through the window, the baseball. So hold D down and just let's start by drawing a small circle, and I don't like that, smaller circle where the ball is going to hit the window. Maybe put it over here a little bit more. And then the way the cell fracture works is it will put basically splits between the circle and another circle. So we'll draw kind of spider web almost around that circle, just like so. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And that will shadow it more densely here and bigger pieces out here. And then we can also add a few just dots, which will add some more splits and shadows in the cell fracture add-on. So do that and a few outside around in your plane. That should be good. So now we can use our cell fracture add-on. So check cell fracture. I'm not going to go into detail on how to use all these different settings. I'm just going to show you what I did. So check grease pencil over here. You can add some noise, 0.5, and basically that should be all you need to do. So click OK and watch it work its magic as it shatters our window. This will be placing the layer on the layer 2 right next to it, keeping your original one, but alright, so if we go to layer 2, we can see what happened, and we have our shattered window. So that should be good. Well, let's animate it. Well, first we're going to need a ball, but we're not going to use our high quality model for this. We're going to start off by just using a low poly ball, because the collision will go faster with low poly. So let's scrub through our video here, watching the guy, and set up where we want the ball to come. So I think we can start our animation here. Turn on your camera layer too, make it easier to see. So we want the ball to start around in this area, so shift add a UV sphere and turn the subdivisions down, way down, just to like an 8x4, maybe a little more than that, 12x6. Okay, that'll be good, and scale it down to the proper size, estimately. Kind of place it back in the background where it would be realistically. Alright, so that will be about good for there. We'll just insert a keyframe for now, and then scrub through your video. He's reacting to the glass. Bam, right about there. I think the ball would be up by the camera, like I had in my shot. So we're going to be slowing it down when it comes up to the camera. So scrub to the video till you get about there, grab the ball and place it right next to the camera and insert another keyframe. And then you can see we got to move it some more. So just grabbing it and moving it into the camera view like so, right there, and insert another location. Now let's see if this is passing through the right point, and it almost is. So we know we have it set up at the end where we want it, but we can be more, we can change it more in the beginning here to make it line up more. So go into the camera view and move it that way a little more, and insert the location. And now let's see, it passes through perfectly. Just about. Let's save our project again. We can just move it a little bit more here. There. And scrub through. That looks good. That looks perfect. Okay. So now that we have that set up, we're going to do our simulation. That's right. The simulation. So we're going to be using rigidbody tools here. This is a newer feature in Blender, so I'm excited to show you guys how to use it. So let's start off by just going to go to wireframe, and right now basically we're going to be selecting all the pieces of glass we want to move. We're going to have a few pieces stay here frozen like they didn't fall out of the frame, and we're going to have a lot of the pieces in the center come flying out. So to set those up, I'm just going to hit C, and you bring up your selection tool like this, and you just select the different unit pieces that you want to shatter and fly. So basically just the inner pieces, and you can leave the outer pieces there. And that looks pretty good. Now let's deselect that B box select, deselect that outer frame. So these are all the ones that we want to be active. So we're going to add an active to the rigid bodies, and you can see it adds them to a group there. And now just hit Control I and deselect the camera and another frame. And we do want to select this one here though. So deselect that box though. There we go. And these are going to be passive. So these will be frozen, but the other pieces will interact with them. So now if you change your timeline to 1 down here and go to the beginning, you can see that they should just fall to the ground like that. And that's because the simulation starts at 1. So basically we're going to have to simulate this at 1. So to do this, I'm just going to grab my ball animation. Under the ball, let's quick do this. You want this to be active, and then under the, if you go here, you can see you have physics enabled for it. This is going to be animated. So now it will inspect the keyframes. Now we need to move these keyframes to the beginning to interact with the class basically. So I'm just going to quick split my window here, open up the dope sheet, and grab these 2 keyframes for our sphere and move them to the beginning. So you can see your 2 bars there scrubbing down here, and basically you just want to set it up so at around frame 1 is when it's colliding with the glass, so the glass doesn't move on its own until the ball hits it. So that looks pretty good. Yeah, you can already see the simulation reacting with the glass shattering like so, and that's looking pretty cool. We might want to just scale our ball up a little bit more so it hits more pieces of glass, and scrub through that. That's looking okay. If you play that at full speed, it's not too bad. You can experiment with this as much as you want, getting the glass to react differently. But that's looking pretty cool. So for this tutorial. I'll just save it at that, and that'll work okay, I think. Let's. I'd like it if it hit a few more pieces of glass, so maybe we can try just tweaking this animation a little bit, maybe moving it just a frame or two and seeing how that might affect it. See, now it's breaking too soon. Now it's too late. If I could just get it right in the center here. Holding shift down will make the selection move slower. So right there, let's see if that works. Nope, that's too soon. Alright, I guess we had it perfect before, so let's just go back to that. And bam. You can see this green bar is the cache for the rigid body. So let's just play that through. Bam. Get the shatter. And just let that all get cached into the RAM there. And then once you have it like that, pause your animation, select all the shards, not the box. Well, actually go to the beginning. So you can select all the shards, not the ball, and not the box. I guess it doesn't matter with the box though. And then we will bake to keyframes under your rigid body tools. Click bake to keyframes and leave all the settings as they are and just go OK. And you'll see it will go through and add 1 billion keyframes, keyframing every step of the animation. Let's save it. And you can see that that's our animation there. So that's what we want. That's good. So we don't need this many keyframes though. So just to make it easier on ourselves, let's delete. We really only need the first few. So we can delete all these up to there. Select them. Hit X, delete. Continue moving down. So basically every shard and glass is keyframed. And that's where all these come from. And the last few there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is when the ball reaches the camera, I want the simulation to just go super slow motion, like right there. Well, actually, let's grab the ball and change it to vector and not curves under the graph editor, in case you didn't see that. So now the ball will come at a quicker pace and not curve down to a slower speed. So right there, or there, I think we can do it. We're going to have the simulation just freeze frame in midair. So to do this, go to your dope sheet again. Let's first just grab all of the keyframes and let's reset our timeline. Now we can do that back to how it was. 130. Move all the keyframes back to where they were. You can test the ball to make sure you get that right. So go. You want, this is a little too late. No, too late. So right about there, he should be ducking. Boom. The shards coming in. Boom. So right here is where now we can select. We want the simulation to end. Or maybe right there would be cooler. We can always adjust the ball a little bit later. So select all your glass. Grab all those keyframes and move them to frame 250, which is right there, looking at the line there. So now, if you scrub through the animation, you'll see that, boom, the glass just freezes in midair, and that's really cool. So that's good for that, and let's call that good, and let's bring in our baseball model. This model I didn't create myself. I got just off of Blend Swap by Up 3D Animation. He created this awesome looking model, and I used it. So credit goes to Up 3D Animation. So just I'll include this model with it, but you can just go append, select, hang on, go to your assets that I gave with this, select the baseball, select group, and select baseball. You can see we have our baseball here now, and it's huge, but that's okay. So with it selected, just grab the empty that it's parented to and scale it down to the proper size. Maybe grab our sphere there, Shift S, cursor selected, grab the empty, Shift S, selection to cursor, and scale it down till it's about the proper size of a baseball. Something like that. And then just grab the empty, then grab the sphere, making sure you grab the empty first, Control P, parent to object. Now the ball follows the sphere. Make sure you grab the ball first, and then the sphere. So there's our ball now, which comes flying in there. You can animate that however you like, and we can hide our sphere. You can see our baseball going through the window. Alright, so now just let's set up a few materials here. The glass, obviously, just grab one shard for now, and create a new material. It's just going to be, make sure, we're going to do this under cycles, so switch to cycles, and make it a glass material, and we'll just leave that for now. We'll change that later, but name your material glass. This is important because we'll be applying this material across all the different things here. So with that selected, box select everything else, hit Control GL, and link materials. Now you can see every little shard has a glass material. Perfect. Also now we're going to open, let's change this to GPU. We're going to open environment that I created inside the building this was shot. You can uncheck ambient inclusion there too. So switch this to an environment texture and open. I'll include this with the tutorial, but let me see where I have this placed. Open up the environment texture. Alright, so now if you go to rendered viewport and uncheck transparent background and hit number 5, you can see the inside of this building in a environment map with our glass there. So that's good. Now you can see that in our camera view this isn't really matched up to what it is in the video, the background. So to fix this, we're going to go to our node editor, check the world settings down there. You can see where we have our texture here. We're going to shift add a texture coordinate node, generated, connect that up, and then we're going to shift add a vector mapping node and stick that in there. And now by changing the Z rotation here, we can change how this looks in our scene by rotating it. So just experiment with this, scrubbing through it till we get over to the window there, and then you'll want to change, let's scrub through our video, try and match the window up with there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but let's just hold shift down to go slower, match that up there, and then the rotation along the X as well. So put that in there somewhere, something like that should be okay, just so you get the lighting coming in at the right angle on the glass. Maybe you can change this rotation a little bit too if you desire. There we go. So now you can see that our scene is lighted completely with that background. We can go back and check transparent now but you can see we have lighting still on our ball and our glass. But there's too much reflections in the glass, and you can't see the video behind it. If we go down into our background images and make it all the way opaque, you can see that you can't see through it enough. So let's modify this glass material now. Switching back to object materials. We have our glass material here, and we're going to need to make it more transparent. So add a mix shader and add a transparent shader and pop this in the bottom there. And make this transparent by going the alpha all the way down. And then, yeah, 0.5 is pretty good. So we shouldn't have to change that too much more than just leaving it at 0.5. So that's not too bad. Now let's start setting up our render layers. Rename this one to baseball. Let's put our baseball on its own layer. So select our whole baseball and check use environment too on this layer if that was unchecked by default. Put baseball on that layer, so select that layer for the baseball and go to our glass shards, select everything there. This can be layer 2. Go to the background layer, we'll name this glass broke and put that in layer 2. And we do not need to calculate the shadow and AO on that layer. And then the first frame, which is our unbroken glass sheet, we'll make another layer for that and make this just glass. And set that to first layer. So this one's second, that one's third. Or not third, but that one. So now let's set up the tiny glass shards that you saw in my scene. So to do that, we're going to just place the cursor where your shatter box is, like so. And we're just going to add a UV, or not a UV, a circle, and have it filled with just a triangle fan, doesn't matter. Excuse me. Rotate 90 degrees on the X, and just kind of line this up with your glass in the scene, scale it down. Now this is going to be keyframed to become bigger as the glass shadow gets bigger. So I'm going to go through, we can turn off the glass plane and just look at the glass here. And when the ball first hits the glass, right there, we're going to want it to be smaller. So scale it down, insert a scaling keyframe. Scale it up a little bit bigger than that. Insert a scaling keyframe. And then scrub through a few frames and scale it all the way up. Insert a scaling keyframe. Okay, so that's good for that. And now let's make those tiny shards. So just on a new layer, Shift S, cursor to center, Shift add a cube. We'll go to the side view and scale this way down along the Z axis. And then we can just scale it way down in general. Tab in edit mode. And this is just really simple because he's going to be really small in the scene. Check that. Just really simple, tiny glass shards. So you don't have to spend a lot of time on these. Just make them quick and dirty. It really doesn't matter too much. Just once you make one, move it over, and we'll just make a few variations real quick by moving the corners around on these. We'll just do 3 of them real quick. Trying to make them look somewhat different. Kind of looks like that now. Just kind of. Yeah, alright, that's fine. So now select them all Control G, make a group, and just name it shards. And that's all we need to do. So now let's set up our particle system here. This is our emitter. So we're going to go particle settings, create a new one, class. I'm just going to go 500. We want it to start at 181.82, and it's first keyframe, 182. We want to end basically around 185. Alright, turn off the emitter on this. Now the way I did this effect to get it so the shards just freeze in midair, you can't keyframe any of the particle settings. So what I did is I keyframed a force field to have these shards fly out and then stop. So I'll do that now. I'm just going to shift add a force field, force. Set this up in my scene relative to like how the ball is moving kind of on an angle like that, following the path of the ball as it goes by. And I'm going to go to the settings and turn the strength way up to something like 60 and give it a little bit of noise too. So let's now the force field has to be on the same layer that the glass shards are on, or particles. So let's move the particles to their own layer. We'll move them right there. And let's move the force field to the same layer. Alright, now select your particles. Also, we don't want the particles to have gravity because otherwise they would fall when it's supposed to be slow motion. So maybe you can just give it a tiny bit of gravity, but you really don't want much. So now kind of scrub through, and you can see the particles flying out as its force field goes on. Now you're going to want the force field to be keyframed to make it stop. So basically you want it like right here to be a real strong 60, hit I, and then right after that you want it to be nothing, so hit 0. So it should be 60 to 0. Now if you just save your scene, if you play your animation through, play your animation through, you should have your particles go boom, and they're not stopping. Okay. That's because we have to set up a few more settings here. So first, give the particles a much smaller mass. These are just small shards. You can give them just like a 0.1 mass. And oh, that reminds me. With our glass shards, what I did is I calculated the mass when I created my shatter, and that will give you a little bit more variation between the pieces. I forgot to do that. Sorry guys, but that will give it a little more realistic simulation. So yeah, back to our particle layer. Sorry if I'm jumping around too much here. Back to our particle layer, we can give it a little bit of brownian motion, and then the dampening is really what we want to use to make it freeze in midair to stop the force field, basically. So if we play this through now, you see the particles go out and freeze, except they're not going out. They're not going out evenly, and we want them to last longer. So turn up the lifetime a little bit, and let's also set them to be the group object of the shards that we made earlier, and give them a complete random size as well. And then just adjust the main size to get them. That's way too big. Also check rotation and give it a random on the normal. Check dynamic and give it some. Actually, you don't really want too much angular velocity, but that's way too big. So make that 0.02. That's more like it. That's you can see the animation starts getting cached in there. If you want to just reset it, you just change the setting and it will go back to not being cached. Okay, it's kind of getting a little bit of a weird. That's because the the emitting is still emitting particles after the force field has been set to 0, so we gotta fix that. And at the end, we look at here and we can see that the particles stop generating at 185. So if we go to 185 and set our strength to 60 there, whoops, insert keyframe 60, insert keyframe 0, insert keyframe. Take out the keyframe earlier here. We need to have the force field going as long as it's emitting particles, basically. So let's try that, and you can see you get that frozen effect. Ta-da! Now you might take a little bit of adjusting to get it to match up with the ball stopping, but that looks actually pretty good. Let's try it one more time. Boom. Perfect. Alright, so now if you go to the camera view, you can get those shards all over the place. And if you wanted, you could add a few more, just because it's cool. So let's make that 1,000. And cache it in one more time. Bam. Make sure it's good. It looks good. And bake the animation. So once it's in the cache, you can just... It actually doesn't even have to be in the cache. Just you can just click bake and bake your animation like so. Perfect. So now also you want to give your shards here all the same glass material that we gave the other one. Alright, so now we can start doing some rendering and compositing. First, you just want to quick go to your render layers, take a glass broke, and also include the shards on layer 4 there. So let's select up all of our layers. One other thing, actually a few other things, but one to start with, is let's do the focal length on the camera. So set limits, change the distance. You want the distance to be somewhere around 2.5, like it's focused on the drummer who's in that area. So I'm going to do 2.5, and then right when the ball smashes, right there, we'll insert a keyframe, and then once the ball makes it to the camera, right there, we will insert another keyframe, except this one will be like a 0.2, or maybe 0.6, or maybe a different point, just so it's focused on the ball there. We'll just do like a 0.32, 0.35, and insert another keyframe. So now that will be a cool effect. The focus will change from the window area to the ball as it goes through. And then we can also check motion blur and make that like a 0.6 for some motion blur. So let's do our first render now, and with all of our layers selected. Alright, with all of our layers selected, let's save our project and do our first render. And you should get a result that looks like this. So there's obviously a few things we gotta fix still. So one of them being the emitter is showing up there. So let's go to 3D view, go to our particle systems and tell it to not render the emitter. And besides that, let's just render that again with all of our layers selected now and see if it's... Wait, I'm getting a black baseball. And also that sphere is rendering as well. So that's a few of the things we gotta fix. So Option H, unhide everything. Grab your sphere that it's tracked to, and scroll down here, open it up a little bit, do a search for sphere there, and uncheck the render box on that so it doesn't get rendered. You can also go to camera, rate visibility, and uncheck it there. Also uncheck the transmission, shadow, and everything else. That's why we're getting a black ball, because it's shadowing it, because it's thinking it's inside of it and just messing it up. So let's try rendering that again now. We get our baseball, we get our shattered glass, and it is looking interesting. Let's start working in the compositor now, though, and see where we get. Okay, so in the compositor now, let's take out the vector blur. I think that might be giving us those weird looks, because we no, what's giving us all those dots? Maybe it's this. Let's we don't need any of this here for shadows or anything, so take those out, and okay, that's better. Now you can see on our glass we're still getting a too much reflections and stuff, so let me see what I can do about that. Okay, first of all, what I did was my environment texture is way too saturated for the video footage, so I went to my environment nodes here and just took the saturation way down. So I just added a color hue saturation node and took the saturation down to like 0.5. So that will help with the reflections there. So yeah, let's try another render now and see what that looks like. We can switch to our compositor so we can see. Now that looks a little better. And also, we don't have to apply it over our video 100% either. So let's just start with our oh wait, hang on a sec, there was one more layer that we forgot to render that I'll do now. We need a mask to switch between the unbroke and the broke. So to do this, I can just duplicate this here. So shift duplicate that and move it to a different layer. And then under that layer here, remove the particle system, because we don't want more shards, we just want the plane. So we have this animated like that, and the first keyframe here, we don't want it visible at all, because basically this is going to have, just quick do this now, an emission material, perfectly white for our mask. This actually doesn't even matter, because we'll be using the alpha from it, but we can still just uncheck all these things so it doesn't have any influence to any of the other objects in the scene. So do that, and then in the keyframes now, before the ball hits it, we just want to scale it down to nothing. So just scale to like 0 and then hit the scaling. And then we want this to scale up much bigger. So here we can just scale this up to take the whole scene and insert the not location, scaling there. Now this is going to be the transition between the two. Move a few keyframes further, insert the scaling again, and delete that other one. So we have a little bit more frames in there of it shadowing out. Maybe just stick another keyframe in here to make it scale a little bit faster, or slower, I should say, in here. Alright, so now we have that, we just make another render layer. We'll just name this mask and grab that layer right there. So, drying this again, let's just render all 5 layers out. Alright, in the compositor now, we have, let's just add all of our layers in here now. We have our glass broke, shift duplicate that, go to just our normal glass. Let's zoom in here a little bit. You can see I'm picking up some of the other layers. Oh, these are shadows. Alright, we're getting shadows on our layers here, so go to the render layers go to your glass layer and exclude. We're going to exclude the broke layers, which is these two. You can see up here. So exclude those two, and also we'll exclude the baseball. So under glass, exclude that one too, and the mask might as well. And the same with the glass broke. We can exclude the glass layer, so, and the baseball. Baseball's on layer 5, so on the glass broke, exclude that layer too. Alright, that should look a lot better, so let's render again. Render again. Alright, now you can see we have the plain glass material, the glass broke, and the baseball. Alright, so here's what we're gonna do. Following through the frames here, we need to make one more layer here. It's getting a little bit crowded with the layers, I know, but make one more layer here for the mask. And alright, we can delete that layer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off, hang on one second. Alright, we're gonna start off by adding a alpha overnode and combining just the glass in with the video footage. And check that out, and you can see we have our glass there. Doesn't blend real perfect right now, but it'll look better, trust me. So now we're gonna have this. Yeah, we're gonna have this added with the factor of just like 0.8 for now, just so it looks a little better. And then we'll add another alpha overnode and add the glass broke into it. Now you can see they're both showing up here, but what we're gonna do is we're going to go to our mask, and it's not actually rendered in this frame, so let's pick a frame in there like that, and we render it so we have the mask actually visible in it. And there's our mask, and now we're going to use this mask as the factor, or we're going to use the alpha from this mask, I should say, as the factor to combine this with the glass. So a whole glass, our broke glass, and you can see it's only showing up where that mask is. Now we can also just quick add a blur node to make that transition a little bit better and pop it in there. Change it to fast Gaussian and just give it like a 15 by 15, and you can see that blends it better. So that works for that. Now a few things that I also did is I added a quick hue saturation value node and desaturated the glass just a little bit more on its own here without desaturating the background, because it really can be basically black and white with just a little bit of reflections in there. So just give it a little bit, and you can change the hue a little bit just to kind of get the colors matching your scene properly, like so. And now now that we have that, it should work well. We need to, hang on one sec here. Basically what we're going to do is we got to put the baseball in here first. So move the glass, both the alpha layer nodes down a little bit, and we can just duplicate one of these. And we're going to stick our baseball in first. So grabbing the baseball and connecting the baseball. We get just our baseball there with the video, and then you bring this and connect it, and you get your glass and your baseball. But that's not exactly what we want, because we want the baseball added 100%. Oh, no. Alright, so we want the baseball added like that, but we want this glass now added with the same mask, except we're going to invert it, because basically we want it to be the opposite. We want it to be there when the mask up here that we used for the breaking glass, we want to use the same for the normal glass, except inverted. We want it to be opposite. We want the glass to be visible while the broken glass is there, and then invisible after it breaks. So basically, by plugging in it inverted, it works the opposite, and we have the shattered glass coming out as the ball goes through the normal glass. So just doing that will give you the ball coming through and the shattering, and that should do it pretty well. Now, just a few things else that I'm going to do to wrap up this tutorial. I'll render this out a little bit higher quality and show you a few of the final compositing to make the focus change and a little bit of cool effects. So I'll be right back after rendering this out a little higher quality. And okay, I'm back with a higher quality render here. I also just made the shards a little bit bigger, and you can see that our baseball is a little bit opaque, and that's just invisible, and that's because we have to turn a factor back up to 1. And now you can also see that shards are showing through the baseball, and that's not what we want. So so go to your broken glass, mask the layer with the baseball on it, and render one more time. Alright, and that should do it. We check this layer, and now we can see the glass shards are behind it. So now we're just going to duplicate this alpha over node one more time, combining it with the baseball between the two glass layers. And we're going to turn down the factor a little bit here. Just put this at like a 0.2. So so the glass is a little bit more transparent now too. Alright, so insert keyframe. Oh, one other thing we messed up on the camera. We set the limits up, but I didn't set the focal length. So go change the f-stop just to like a 0.6 and give it 9 blades and just a little bit of rotation. So now now this will be blurred. You can see this is still sharp when this is up, and these will be blurred. And then also what we're going to do to blur the background when the focus changes is because this isn't in the scene, it has to be blurred separately. We're going to add a filter, blur node, make it fast Gaussian, and we're just going to scrub through. Let's change this to our timeline here so it's easier. We're going to jump to the beginning of the shadow here. Looking at our 3D viewport, you can see it starts right there. We're going to insert a keyframe on both of these and then jump to the end when it's the utmost closeness, and we're going to blur the background. So let's try a 15. That's not enough. Let's go 25 by 25. There. That's 35. Let's go 25 by 25. And that's good. And insert keyframe there. So now you can see that the background will get more blurred as this gets closer. And setting up this will blur the shards properly. And that's basically it. I'll show you just a quick few more things to make your scene pop. I added a lens distortion node. And I also keyframed this with here, let's just copy what the timeline of these. So at the beginning here, oh, too far. When the beginning here, when it smashes, put the dispersion at 0, and then at the very end, not the very end, but at the closest point here, put the dispersion at like a 0.1. And you can see this gives you that really cool lens distort node that works perfect in this scene. So insert a keyframe there. And then another thing I did was add a color balance node. And I made the colors get real overexposed at the end here. So you just, You put the lift up in the bluish area. You put the gain down in the yellowish area. Gamma a little bit yellow. Well, that's way too much. A little bit to kind of give it a filmic look as soon as it goes into slow motion, like so. And then I kind of just overexposed the window a little bit, like it might be if it got real close, and the background just gets a little overexposed then. And lift that up a little bit too. Something like that. And now you can just hit I and then go back to the beginning just like the other steps. And at the beginning of the smash, make it 0. And hit I one more time. Alright, so let's do the last final render and we can see how awesome it looks. Okay, and I'm back with the final render. Let's check it out. And it seems like our depth of field is still too strong because I don't see much of the shards or anything like that. So I will change it to 2, maybe 2.5, render one more time, and be right back. And I'm back with what is hopefully the final render. Let's check it out, and that's better. You can see the glass shards now, just slightly blurred. You can play with that if you want, but that looks pretty good. And one other thing you might want to do is check fit on the lens distort node. But there you go. That is smashing a window. And just one thing, like I mentioned before, you could have made your simulation a little bit more realistic with the glass here if you had if I had told you to. But if you had selected all of your shards and just clicked calculate mass and then broken glass from there, you can see you have these options once you click that, and it would have given you a little better simulation, but that's okay. We have a pretty cool looking result here. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and learned something from it, and I'll see you later. Bye.